Welcome back. This is Pairs Well with Knitting. I'm Jennifer, and this is a knitting podcast all about knitting, yarn adventures, and travel. Thank you very much, as always, for joining me here today. Absolutely thrilled that we're together and I get to share a traditional style podcast with you. This will be featuring finished objects, whips, acquisitions, with a sprinkling in of two other items. We are looking at cast on that I'm going to be bringing on a future trip with me, and what I did over the weekend, which was a whole new fibery fun adventure. So strap in and let's get into it. Let's talk about what I'm wearing and the finish object. This is a Jupiter crop by Caitlin Hunter of Boylan Knitworks. This is an absolute pride and joy of mine. I am not a color work enjoyer, if you do not already know, and never found, I think, a method of knitting color work that really allowed me to experience joy while knitting. I found it. And I'm there. I'm sold. I think color work might be one of my new joys, along oddly with cables. I love cables now too. I'm getting into all of the knitting things, I think, in experiencing the techniques and I think modifying the way I'm knitting to help me have more joy in my knitting, if that makes sense. So I will talk about the method that I used. It's not a secret. It's literally super easy, so I can show it to you. But I want to talk about the sweater pattern and the yarn. I'm gonna talk about the yarn first because I think that's more quick and dirty. So this sweater, except for the cream color, is all knit out of pure Gynt. This is a not only Norwegian company, ironically, because I'm going there very soon. It is a Norwegian yarn. It's a Norwegian wool that's spun. So this is one of two Norwegian wools that are sold and milled in Norway with Sandnes Garn, which is very cool. And I actually bought this during local yarn shop day from the Knitting Loft way before we had really concisely decided that we are going to Norway. So I feel like this is all, this was like the crystal ball. This was telling of the future of where we were going for our next yarning trip. So I'm in love with the yarn. This is my second time using this yarn. I've used this yarn with my Press Valor's pullover by Savory Knitting and fell in love with that. That was my main color of the cream. I fell in love with the yarn all over again, and I cannot wait until my hands get to play with this kind of yarn another time. I have to say, in general, knitting with this yarn is a joy. Knitting with this yarn in color work, pure joy. It's spun in a way that makes color work and holding multiple strands very easy. It's very uniform, and I feel the stitch definition is just perfection. I will talk about the brushed alpaca, also by Sandnes Garn. This is not. This is a beautiful finish, and the product, I think, makes it just look super fun. It adds a little bit of textury bit. I did knit a full sweater in this. This was scrappy yarn left over from my Sunday sweater by Petite Knit, and it is not pleasant to work with. It has very long like fibers and fluffy bits that get caught in your needles. So not the best knitting experience, but I find in the end to add a little like extra flair onto something is super fun. Would I knit a whole garment in it again? Probably not, because it really wasn't a joy, but the pure Gynt, absolutely, and I can't wait until next time. The colors, I just felt like I needed to cast on color and bright and fun, and so I did. If you know Caitlin Hunter's designs, they are very much guided by nature and beautiful colors that are very neutral often. And of course, obviously, her design is inspired by nature as well. So there's a feathering pattern that's consistent in the sweater. That is from apparently her favorite rooster, Jupiter, hence the Jupiter crop. Yes, I do want to say that this is a long sleeve, obviously. This was voted for by Instagram World because I had knit up to the short sleeve that was the, and I'll be careful of how I say intent of the design. You'll see what I mean when I talk about my mods. And it was voted on. The majority, just over, had said, let's go long sleeve. I was so undecided if I should go short or long. And so we went long. I'm so glad I did. The fit on this is just fabulous. I went for the size 1. I used a US 3 needle, somewhat by accident. I originally got gauge on my swatch with a US 5 doing the Colourwork chart. I think I used the body, I can't remember. 3 charts, yoke, body, and short sleeve. But when I was casting on at the neckline, I was out of the house. I did the ribbing, I did the short rows at the back, so that was all following the pattern. I went to switch out for my US 5 needle from my US 3. Totally forgot. I got on a tear with the Colourwork and was just finding my groove. Before I knew it, I had knit a chunk of the yoke using a US 3. I did a bit of a, oops, what did I do? Measured. I was still getting gauge at 20 stitches per 10 centimeters or 4 inches, which was interesting because that actually meant the gauge of the pattern. I also was getting it on the swatch with the US 5. Don't ask me, because I guess I did a flat Colourwork, which would manipulate my gauge. So again, I don't know, it's one of those magic voodoo things that happen in knitting world, knitting in the round versus knitting flat. Anyway. So she's knit on US 3, which sounds scary, but I think, again, the way I'm holding my yarn and the looseness that I have in my yarn tension totally worked, got gauge. With the size 1, I am noticing now, accepting that my distance that I appreciate my knitwear to fit from the neckline to my armpit is short. I probably should measure that. It's embarrassing that I haven't done that yet. I shall, maybe after this video, because as I knit the yoke, I realized that if I followed along in the design, which is the yoke is supposed to go until the end of the turquoise blue section, this would have been gaping on me. It just way too big and way too long. Also didn't fit the aesthetic of the design intent. So I ripped back, as we do, to the feather and split for sleeves there, which meant 2 pattern motifs were pushed out of the yoke, if that makes sense, and down onto the sleeve and the body. So you're thinking, okay, it's probably not a big deal. Kind of is. It involved a little bit of math and figuring things out. So instead of just like casting on the amount that was recommended in the underarm, I obviously had to meet the pattern because we wanted this gorgeous little situation happening. So not following pattern, but following what I needed to because of splitting way early. I cast on 8 stitches at the underarm to maintain the pattern. And it was a little wonky as well because then when I'm starting my beginning of a round, it didn't start with the chart from my memory. Everything was a little funky, but we figured it out. From here, so this is supposed to be in the yoke, which is now in the body, and that's fine. We followed this component to the feathers for the body, which was awesome. I did a 1x1 ribbing that was recommended, and then I did a in pattern bind off knit over purl. Super simple and super happy with the length. Nice and cropped, but not crazy cropped, not belly showing. We're still being modest, but cute. Then I got into my sleeve bit. That was a whole whack of figuring things out in the evening of what I had to do. So I ended up picking up 10 stitches at the underarm, which seemed a little bonkers, but it still doesn't make sense in my math brain because I've picked up 8 stitches at my underarm each, but now I'm picking up for 10 stitches to make my pattern repeat around my underarm and arm, but whatever. And it worked, which is great. It did take a while, and I can't show because I redrew out some of the charting for me to help me, but we got there. And so the pattern that I took from the pattern, the chart, was this section, which was again the yoke part. I added in a component kind of from the sleeve, and I went for it. So I did a lot of dabbling on Ravelry, and I believe I think I saw a couple long sleeve sweaters that were modified using the longer feather motif. And so I took that idea, I changed this yellow component a little, which is no big deal. And the feathers, I just did repeat from the body. And I'm in love with it. I feel like it's totally amazing, awesome. And it wasn't hard. That part was not hard to modify. It was more figuring out the cast-ons and everything. I had to reduce because the chart from the yoke, I had to then reduce to the sleeve by 4 stitches, and then I had to reduce another 2 to get the amount to fit the pattern repeats for this part that came from the body. So again, it was a little mathy, but not bad. Like, this is not the worst that I've done. This is not the most math I've done ever in the world. Yeah, so I think in general, that is the Jupiter crop. I have not worn it out yet because we have all of a sudden got summer weather in Toronto, but I adore this sweater. It just officially blocked, so she's first day dry today, and I'm in love. I'm in love. I cannot wait to wear it. Obviously, when it's slightly cooler, and I think she's gonna get lots of wear. I didn't talk about how you hold my my yarn for color work. How can I show it? I'm gonna try this. I already tried this once in the video and it was just hideous. So I hope this time works. I just wanted to show and share how I've found color work pleasure to knit for me, and it's all in the way I'm holding it. This is not a secret, and if you're already finding a method that works for you, like fab, I hope this works for you too. This is obviously not from a color work design, but I can show with 2 very contrasting colors. So we have green and we have the coral or the poppy from this guy. And all I do, it sounds so crazy and simple, is I just hold it over my pointer finger, and I think it's called picking my yarn. So I'm holding it continental style like I normally would. And all I'm doing is going under my knit stitch for stockinette, and I'm picking, my goodness, this is hard to do on camera, my main color and knitting it. Say I want my contrast, I'm slipping my needle under knitwise like I would for a normal knit stitch, and I'm picking up, sorry, I don't have it attached to anything right now, of course, my contrast color. So when I'm knitting, literally it's nothing special. It's literally just off of my main pointer finger, and I'm picking, like, you know, the main color, I'm following my chart, and then I'm picking my contrast color, and it's just literally that simple. But there's no weird tensioning issue. There's no weird, like, everything's getting super, like, mucked up and, you know, upside down. So I found this way worked really well to create a variety of colors and following the chart without having to undo tangles. This allowed me as well, when I'm knitting, to have even a 3rd contrast color, which did happen in the sweater at points, not many, but it does. So you can still go off of your 2 like big player colors, put this down and swipe it aside, and then pick up that 3rd color if you need to go and do that color work. It was a really easy solve for me. And again, just like I shared, because I did a little like tips and tricks with unspun yarn in my last video, which you haven't checked out, you should, because if you're curious into unspun, where I share tips and tricks. And again, I feel like it was all how I was holding my yarn is making the experience unpleasant or a joy. And so I feel this way, I'm trying to get the stitches back on, I feel this way of holding my yarn is painless. It's really allowed me to enjoy color work. And I feel for this sweater in particular, the color was doing it for me already, but the method in which I found like producing and knitting was such a joy. I mean, we have overall color work, and it wasn't painful. It was super fun. All right, we are back into something a little less woolly because she's a little spicy out here today. And, you know, wool isn't what I need. I need something a little lighter than that. I hope that you're finding that when I'm sharing the tips and tricks that I come across myself as I'm going, is that it inspires you maybe not only to try that method, but to experience and experiment with your methods that work for you, and allowing ourselves not to think just inside that box of like, this is how we have to do it, but broadening the horizons and realizing like we should be exploring to see what works best for our hands with our bodies, and seeing what we like doing and how we can have that joy in making that thing even more, as well as fit. You know, like I think modifying the color work and the charts the way I did works for me and my body. I wish there was a perfect designer out there that could always do it, but I do feel liberated in knowing that I can do these things, and I hope you do too. I do have to say, color work is something that I didn't really experience joy in before, and I think it was, again, exploring how I could hold my yarn that would make it better for me. And I'm a believer now. I think this is it. Like, I think the fear I had of like doing cables, that's gone. The fear of color work, we're gone. Like, we're slowly, you know, we're becoming a little more risky, even more in our knitting, which is awesome. And I'm ready for it all. We're gonna get into whips, and yes, there's just so many things to go over. Okay, proudly, I have casted on my mother's vest. This was a request by her of something that she really wanted me to knit up for her. There's all kinds of stitches off, and I'm not even worried because I'll share why. So this is in a color that doesn't really bring me great joy, which is why it took some time to get it on the needles. This is her joy though. So this is 2 strands held double, believe it or not, of Duo, which is ironically a Sandnes Garn. I swear this is not a Sandnes Garn episode. It's not. This is it for Sandnes Garn. And this is a combo, hence Duo or 2, of a cotton and a merino. We're 55 merino wool and 45 cotton. We're looking at 115 meters. I am holding a double. She liked the fabric more on this gauge instead of single. I have this on a US, I think it's a 5. I want to say US 5, although of course, now that I'm on camera, I'm not 100%. I can put in the show notes if you want, or just reach out and ask if you ever want to make this. I'm following the concept of the Stockholm V-neck slipover by Petite Knit. This is very different because the gauge is off. So if we're looking at math and you're a mathy person, this is 16%, like the gauge is 16% bigger than the gauge in the pattern, because she liked the fabric, all the things, and in general, the design of the Stockholm slipover. We're doing all the math. So I've just basically, in a very short nutshell, figured out the pattern for 16% less stitches in general. Has it perfectly worked? No, I'll tell you why. And it might be her body, because I think on me it works. First of all, the arm area, the arm opening is way too big, so we will be ripping back. She tried this on the other day. And the V is good. That is looking smashing on her. But the other funny thing, and I have to figure out how to do, I guess I'm gonna have to rip out some more, is the increases that happen here to make more fabric in the V to go under the underarm and at the front part of the chest. That's a little too much too. So I think I might take out some of the increases. I have to figure it out how much to reduce the amount of fabric here. I do know that it's going to reduce the width, and that she can't afford to lose. So I'm gonna have to play around a bit. Hence the hesitation of the cast on and knitting for someone with a very different body, and the fact that she doesn't live close by. It's, yeah, it's just, I want it to bring me joy. We're not there yet, and it might. I also, in having to do ripping out, I have to rip out the V-neck because you noticed that the reduction of the stitching here to create that beautiful little V is not in the center perfectly, which is fine. So we're just basically gonna do a big rip out and redo. And that's the way it goes. I am not in love with the yarn choice. Again, she wanted something that wasn't 100% wool, and this is fitting that part for her, which is great. That's it. Yep, we're gonna press on. So that's the knit for my mother that I hope will work out and I hope she will enjoy. Pressing on with funny little things. So this sweater, which is the newer slipover by Strikkekaffe, this was designed to be just a little slipover, but I'm making it into a full sleeve sweater. I have ripped out the sleeve, if you haven't noticed, because we did a try on the other day thinking, oh, I'll just do some like TV knitting, no big deal, because I had just finished my crazy color party of the Jupiter crop. And I realized that the sleeve was looking a little chunky. I put it on, we're talking balloon sleeve, didn't want that, ripped it out pretty much to the end, almost. And we're reknitting it. I'm doing rapid decreasing. It's exaggerated here in the video, but it's basically like a triangle right now, and I don't know if I'm enjoying that. The reason why I didn't rip back fully is because there are short rows that happen to bring the sleeve, to give it a cap kind of, so it doesn't go straight out. I don't know. We're in one of those zones. It's going in the same pile as the vest because there's a lot of thinking that has to be done around it. And I don't know when we're gonna be ready to think on that, but we will soon. Then I'm going to show you, okay, this is what I'm showing you. This is the accountability of my whip that has been hanging out on my orange chair for quite some time. If you've been around, you may remember this. This is the Tekla tank top by, oh my gosh, what is her name? Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting completely. That's how long it's been. I will put in the show notes. Please forgive me. It is just a fun, like, naughty little tank. I cast this on in, where was I? Mexico this year. And I was on a tear to try to knit with plant fibers. I mean, you've seen my, sadly, lack of joy in doing this. This I did enjoy. I picked a fun color that totally inspired me, and I'm feeling like I was really enjoying this process of knitting. Where I fell short was the finishing, ironically. So it was the pickup for the I-cording, and I just got stuck because I wasn't enjoying this that was happening with the holes, and the stitching there was kind of garbage. I had a lot of you reach out to give me some advice, and I just haven't done it yet, so I shall. She's looking pretty big. Maybe it's the view, I don't know. So we'll get there. This is Milena by Sandnes Garn. What? I don't have a ball band here, and it's a mix. It's like cotton, linen, viscose, I believe, and it's pretty good. This yarn was on the Knits review as like top choice for knitting review. You know me with reviews. I love reviews. So I felt even more like, yes, this is going to be awesome when she's done. This kind of brought that inspo back where I'm like, hey, we're going to get this done. Like maybe I'll get it done before my trip. Not maybe to bring with me, but to have it completed and have that kind of sorted and off of my knitting chair. So there we go. That's a little like push for me to get that I-cord sorted out. That's that. That is it for the whips in a nutshell. I want to go over my cast on for Norway. I have been thinking and reviewing and reflecting and obsessing about what yarn to bring with me, what to bring in general, and then what I'm going to cast on, because I love a good sweater story. I love casting on a trip, or knitting on a trip and knitting all of those gorgeous, delicious memories into that garment or accessory, usually garment. And that's what I want to do again. So I thought, okay, do I go super Norwegian? Partially, yes. And here's what I've come up with. So I have 4 skeins of Tundra by Harrisville, which is a, I believe, sport base, maybe light DK, 100 grams of 260 meters of wool, very Norwegian based yarn, milled in Norway and in by Norwegian sheep, which is cool. I plan on visiting Harrisville when I'm in Norway, and you shall see all about it. So I'm in love with the yarn, and so I'm going to bring this. And the idea I have 2 separate ideas. This is it balled up because I balled it up so that I can do a little gauge swatch. Is I'm either going to be knitting a pattern by the Danish designer and mother owner of Knitting for Olive, Pernille. She has designed a sweater pattern that I bought with a saddle shoulder. I'm very intrigued by the saddle shoulder. It's Carl Johan, and it's the Carl Johan sweater. I believe there's a nod to Norway. It's something that I really want to knit with a saddle shoulder, and I believe that the yarn pairing this yarn with the sweater pattern will be stunning. This is the intent that I had when I purchased this yarn. I did consider trying to choose something that was ever more Norwegian, but the patterns that I was looking at all involve color work, and I want this to be a solid color of just this gorgeous light brown. That's where I'm going with this. The other option is that I attended a workshop that I won't even get into that much right this second, but it was a Make It Yours workshop by Katharina Forbes, who is fab, and I'm going to talk about. She has a design your own sweater idea in this workshop that I took. And so that also is maybe where I'm going with this, of a drop shoulder design, just for funsies. Okay, so this is probably I'd say 97.3% sure that this yarn will be my Norway cast on in some form of garment, either a drop shoulder or saddle shoulder sweater. That's where we're going. So jazzed. Then I'm getting into now acquisitions that will couple into the weekend. I will preface by saying this weekend I attended, I hope my mic's okay, it's called the Spinning Seminar. This is an annual spinning seminar that occurs over one whole weekend in June, I think often the second weekend if I'm not mistaken, in Ontario. And spinners, shepherdesses, shepherds, woolly, fibery folk coming from all over the place to attend the seminar. It was amazing. It was my very first time going. The love of my life has a family friend that's very active in fiber community, and she's in a whole other province. She comes through Ontario every year to attend the seminar. And since I've started knitting about 4 years ago, she's asked if I've ever wanted to join. I've always said no, I'm not a spinner. I said yes this year because this is the year of fibery goodness, and I had a ball. I just had the best time. We left on Friday, we came back on Sunday, and it was full on. I would say the average age of the people that participated, or attended, I should say, as well, the seminar, the weekend seminar, I'd say the average age was maybe 70, 75. Very experienced in all fiber things. There were a handful of younger crew, myself included. I like to think, we are there. These women were dynamos. They were just so knowing and going. They were strong. I'm going to tell you what I saw. They were so involved in so many things, so much to give, and so positive. They were dynamos. I was so incredibly inspired by so many things over the weekend. It was awesome. A little divergence of knitting community, and it was lovely. I mean, it's fiber folk, fiber friends, and fiber friends are the best. Like, we know this. So I will start by saying the seminars I attended, ironically, they were both by Katharina Forbes, who's amazing, and she's all things hand spun with spinning, obviously, knitting. She's just a fiber guru. So I attended the first seminar of Make It Yours. This seminar that she put on was about basically design of accessories and garments and putting your own creative spin on it. The bigger takeaway for me was fit. So this was sweater or garment fit, measuring and applying those measurements with percentages that she took from a traditional knitting book called, I want to say, knitting the traditional way. She did borrow some concepts from that book. Oh, here, Knitting in the Old Way by Priscilla A. Gibson Roberts. I don't have my hand on the book, although I think it should be a future purchase of mine. I took so much away from this workshop. I ironically had her in the afternoon, which I had signed up for as well, with spindle techniques. I have never touched spinning before. The Friday night, after a couple glasses of wine with the ladies I was staying with in the dorm, and you stay overnight in often either a hotel or university. This was at Laurier University in Waterloo. I was taught how to drop spindle. It was the beginning of, how do you do this? What does this mean? What are the words? And we got down and dirty into spinning. So my very first ever hand spun is right here. I probably should know all the content because you fibery folk may know. I will go quick. The pink is a merino. I believe the gray E-bit is a Rambouillet and the creamy bit is a BFL. Look at me trying to like be wannabe and know. So this is my first, and I have to say, I'm jazzed that I produced this. I mean, we were plying, we were spinning, we were doing all the things. I was holding my yarn and pinching so tight, I think I've given myself like trigger thumb because I was like, but cool and so inspired. So the people around in the seminars, after, before, all the different events, like there was a banquet, there were awards events, family friend won an award. Like, it was so cool and so exciting. Trying to like learn spinning and like, what am I doing? Everyone that I encountered at the seminar, they were helping, they were guiding, they were being so lovely. And my very favorite, of course, I think coming from education and working with little ones about, you know, kind of finding a method that works best for them. All these people that were helping me, they're like, oh, this is what I do, or this is what works for me, or this is what doesn't work for me, but you have to find the way that works for you, so whatever works for you. Yes, this is what I believe in. So there's the first ball. This was the second, totally solo. Like, this was all me in Toronto spinning up. And I did the plying of the two strands that I'm like, boop, boop, boop. I did this on the subway coming back today from seeing a friend. And I didn't even look up at people. I was like, I don't even want to see the reaction. Like, that's not what I'm here for. I was just digging it. This is so portable. Is this a gateway? Like, maybe? I don't know. So there's the spinny bits. What I've acquired, we'll get into the acquisition. Some purchased, some not. I will go over. There's just so much. 2 knitting books. These are from Family Friend. She was getting rid of so many things because there's a big swap there I didn't even talk about. So you can bring items that you do not wish to have anymore. And you can do trading, you can sell. I want to say, before I even get into all of this, again, these inspiring women, some like 80, older than 80, and they are dynamos. They have a huge basket of goodies with bobbins and yarn and fiber and whatnot. They're toting this from one building to the next, coupled with their spinning wheel. If you have never picked up a spinning wheel in your life, double dog dare you. Do a little bicep curl with it. She's heavy. I went to help one of the women I was staying with and dorming with, and she, she's not a spring chicken, but she's dynamo. She's given her, and I'm like, you know what? Let me help you. Like, I'll take the wheel. She tried to say no, but I stole it away from her. It was like 1,000 pounds, and all these women, giggles of women, okay, from one building to the next, and they all were lugging and loading and just hustling with tons of equipment and heavy equipment. So crazy and so amazing. I love it all. And I only hope I can be as fit and strong as these women. They're amazing. So one of the books I acquired from Family Friend is the Mitten book. This is all pattern motifs, I should say. I'll be careful because they include knitted charts for color work. I mean, hello, you just heard about the Jupiter crop. We're into the colorworky bits. I am so excited about this. I'm gonna try to be careful of how I show this to you. Look at me, try to be careful. Here we go. This beautiful mitten, like yes please, or we know we can apply this to whatever we want to make, maybe a scarf, a hat, whatever. But what I also adore, so this is Swedish country mitten patterns with traditional designs. So they include not only the chart that I was trying to like block out, but they include where or when the pattern is from. So this is from 1860. They don't say where they found it, but this motif, and throughout the little book, that was published in the 80s, every little pattern, or I should say color work design, has like a date that they found this traditional chart from. This is the other one, which I think is just adorable. It's another floral motif. Sorry, trying to be careful here. I'm not doing a very good job. The flower motif on this mitten, like stunner, called flowers. This is from 1860, knitted in Stanga. I don't know where that is, but or if it's a place even, but cool. Copied from wedding stockings. What? Like amaze. So that was just a gift from a friend of the fam. The other fun one is this knitted cakes. She's like, she had all these books. And she's like, Jen, do you want this book? And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm never gonna knit a cake until I saw something. And I'll be careful of how I'm showing this here because I feel like I have to do this. These are called iced donuts. Like, okay. So then, of course, my brain's like, I love donuts and knitted donuts. Like, okay, 0 cal, we'll get into it. Although the high cal ones are delish and my favorite. Then I thought for Emily of High Fiber Knits, love her. She's having a Silly Mel. Hello, Silly Mel, yes please. So this might have to be a cast on for the Silly Mel. She's hosting right now with fun things. I mean, let's get into the silly makes. Those are the 2 books that I have. Here's the little flyer, or I should say booklet, that we got at the spinning seminar. So cute. It was the 60th year. It was just beautiful. They called it Diamonds in the Fluff. They have all volunteers that belong to this association. I want to call it association. So they volunteer their time to organize this massive seminar of all these women that attended. It was, if I had to put a number on it, and I don't know, I'm pulling this out just from my observations, I'd say maybe like 80 to 100 people attended, I'd say. It was amazing. Super well organized. And again, the event included obviously meals. They had awards, as I said. There's workshops in the morning and the afternoon. They had a special banquet that happened in the evening. At the banquet, there were awards there. There were keynote speakers. It was awesome. I mean, I learned more in that one weekend about spinning, of course, because I didn't know anything before, but about sheep breed, about staple length, about the difference in staple length and what that means. Just, I mean, I could go on, but I'm trying to be concise. I would highly encourage, if you were a spinner, to get into maybe something like a seminar workshop if you haven't already. If you haven't done like in-person courses ever in all of your fibre ventures, I would say let's do it, because that's definitely one of my 2024 knitting intentions, was to do more in-person things, and I feel like it's bringing me amazing joy and like massive learning. I don't think I could have done like this guy without having had all of the hands-on, wonderful, warm help that I had over the conference. It was awesome. This is a wrappy thing where you can wrap your yarn around your hand spun to find out kind of what gauge you're getting for an inch, or what would it be, 4 centimeters. So is it like sport, DK, fingering? That's kind of cool. Then I'm going to talk about the roving. No, not yet. I will very quickly. From family friend, I was very lucky and received a number of hand spindles. I won't go over all of them. If you're a spinner, cool. If you're not, then you might, maybe you're like, ooh, interesting, little pencils with things on them. Yep. So I've tried 2 already with a upright whirl and hook. I have yet to try the other non-hook and low whirl options. But we'll get there. Oh no, maybe it would be a high whirl. And yeah, I mean, okay, that's getting all sorted. Roving. I want to champion the roving that I purchased, because they were all purchased from Ontario shepherd and shepherdesses, which is amazing. One of the purchases I made was from mostly mohair. It has a farm name, and it's not here. Oh yes, Pine Hollow Farm in Ontario. These are all from Ontario, and it's exactly what it sounds like. These are all different roving options with different percentages of mohair. This one was, oh goodness, of course I have it, because she wrote it on a chit. This is a 60-40 mohair. I forget the name, or sorry, they literally had names of sheep, but I don't know what kind of wool this is, but I'm sure I could reach out. There is, this is just wool, I believe, this one. I'm trying to be as speedy as I can, but just gorgeous. Like, I don't know if you saw this in the roving itself, the like blend of colors from the mohair options. Whoosh. Amazing. Or I should say mohair, like goat, right? Like, we know this is a goat. Then I have this like silly option that you saw from my first handspun ball. I just like chucked it in. This is a merino from the Olive Sparrow, bag. She had wonderful silly colors, and like neutral ones too, but obviously I was digging the silly ones. She's from Toronto, so I don't know her story exactly. I haven't gone down the rabbit hole, but accessible to me big time, which is pretty cool. Then I have 2 more. Sorry. I have this, which is the Shepherd's Hill Farm. And this is beautiful wool, again, roving. I think I have a card in the bottom, but I will try to be quick on time. This is the same sheepy option, I believe, as this guy. I think so. This is probably why people make spinning notebooks, because I haven't done that or included it in my knitting notebook, and I probably should, because I don't really know, but this was like a dream to play with. And then my last purchase is from Twin Oaks, Twin Oaks Farm. But like all of these amazing shepherdesses and shepherds included like names of the sheep, and somewhere I'm sure I'll find like the kind of sheep, just like fabulous. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. So family friend, other spinners, and the vendors. Sorry, I forgot to say on Friday there's a marketplace that happens, which is where I bought all this goodness from. they're really honest, and they say, like, if you are a beginner spinner, do not pick this one. So I wasn't supposed to pick the mohair, but I did. Not a knitter. I'm like, I can figure it out. So that I'm not spinning with yet. I was told the BFL was a good option, so Blue-Faced Leicester. Romney was a good option. I forget, there was one other that they were like, yeah, these are good options. So pretty much like longer staple length, and yeah, and no plant fibers, as of course, which kind of makes sense to me to start spinning with. Oh my gosh, that's a spinning journey we're going on. So that was the finished objects. That was the whips of chaos, I think. The Norwegian cast on that I'm really jazzed about. My acquisitions, inherited and purchased. That's that. My gosh, this house just got like 50% more fibery, and I don't know where to put it because my knitting boxes with all my yarn are full to the brim. I mean, I could do a whole video on the stuff that I have here that doesn't really fit in the house, but we have made room for. Oh boy, Jennifer, here we are. Right. I hope that you found this video fun, informative, helpful, and yeah, full of fibery goodness. We're expanding the fiber horizon. I do not really understand how I will fit in spinning into my life, because I feel like all of my time with my hands, when they're free, I'm knitting. I might be sewing, and so I don't really know how this is going to be incorporated, although magically maybe, I'm hoping. We shall see where we're going to go with this. Yes, if you're a spinner, you let me know your journey. What's going on with you? What are you spinning? Do you actually knit with your hand spun? I understand fully. Like, this is my second ever spun floof. I don't even understand how I would ever knit with this. I mean, for what? It's such a small quantity. Yeah, it's fantastic, but I could never do a garment amount on a drop spindle. That's bonkers. Obviously, I know that. I don't know. Is this going to be a dream of mine where I do knit with hand spun and maybe obviously have to have a wheel? You let me know. What have you done as a fiber enthusiast? Have you only participated with drop spindle? Have you started branching out into a wheel? Do you have an electric? What are you doing? You tell me. What fits in my condo? I've started the research, but you fiber friends, you know best. You let me know what you're using. Yes, okay. If you enjoyed today's content, which I sure hope you did, please like, subscribe to the account. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you please want to share about your spinning journey, do. If you want to share about color work and what works for you, please do, because we want to help our fiber friends enjoy their time knitting and especially color work too. And if you're finding yourself ever more, please click into the show notes where they'll be detailed with all of today's goodies and sharing on the Ontario sheet and shepherds and shepherdesses. But I invite you to click on the link for the Ko-Fi account where you can make a donation for me. So I super appreciate that. So thank you very much for being here today. And I hope you find great joy in your knitting. I hope you find great joy in your color work knitting or start to explore it, or great joy in your spinning. We shall see each other soon. Take care.